It's such a good track. Like, oh,
So a slow build.
we should. Yeah. Again, I couldn't say the main words of some of the verses.
No, we don't care.
We don't care. The chorus is all time. And then when he just has that change, and you're just like, keep going.
It's elite. It's elite.
So this leads us on nicely to our topic.
Nice little segue. What was our first?
I believe our first topic is HIIT. See, there was a massive... It's still a thing, definitely.
Oh, it's definitely...
But it went through... There was this period where it was like, HIIT is the only thing you should be doing.
Yeah.
Everything else is pointless. It's like, don't waste your time.
Listen, if you're not getting your heart rate in the red zone, stay in bed.
Yeah, it was all about the... what was it? EPOC. The... EPOC?
Excess
post-oxygen consumption. Yeah.
Yep.
That was the buzzword.
Yeah. And for the listeners that aren't as familiar with these various acronyms, HIIT, high intensity interval training.
Yep.
That's what we're talking about. And I guess what we're really trying to say here is it's overrated.
It's overrated, and it's misunderstood, I would say, as well.
Absolutely.
Because if people have actually done, like, from a definition point of view and what HIIT is and how it's actually done in a gym setting.
Yeah, they're not the same
No,
thing.
they're not the same thing. Like, you do a high intensity interval, just efforts, really. Like, not even a session, because doing 2 efforts all out, like, it's that acid. You got that taste in you, that
like,
metal taste,
yeah.
and you just you won't function.
No,
you're not meant to function.
Yeah, I think the big thing to realize is intensity is a measure of output.
Yeah.
Right. So it's not a measure of how hard something is.
Yes.
Right. So a marathon is very low intensity, but very, very hard. Right. Like, it feels intense. I haven't run one. You have. I saw you at the end.
Didn't look good.
Yeah. I'm sure it felt intense. Right? It's obviously very, very difficult. Any endurance activity is. But intensity, right, and duration have an inverse relationship.
Absolutely.
So when we're talking about high intensity interval training, you can't do it for a long time. By definition, your intensity will drop the longer you do something for. And without us going into the various energy systems and how you produce ATP and stuff, when you see it commonly promoted as like 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off, that is aerobic training. That is not high intensity interval training at all.
Well, that's it. And it's like, you might be able to maintain your effort in terms of working at an intensity that is going to be desirable for maybe 1 effort, 2 efforts. But then, like you said, as fatigue sets in, the only way you can maintain that effort is by dropping your output.
Yeah, exactly.
So by definition, you're not now working at a high enough intensity for it to be HIIT.
Yeah, absolutely. And the thing is, we're not saying that you do need to do, correct HIIT training either.
No.
In fact, anything that's really high intensity, you want to be careful with the frequency that you do it, because it's really taxing.
Yeah,
it's really hard. And anybody that's ever done a really hard workout or something that's really physically exerted them, it's not just muscle soreness we're talking about. Like, it's global fatigue, like CNS fatigue. It absolutely fries you. So it's not something that you could do or should do, every single day.
No, that's it. And you've got to earn the right. I think that's a really important one. Because, again, one, you're not going to get the desired benefit from it. And like you said, you have to be working at such an intensity that requires you to have a really solid base to be able to do that. And then, the recovery element of it. And then it's just weighing up, is this worth it in terms of ultimately what my goal is? And if your goal is weight loss, fat loss, overall health, well-being, then it's probably not the right thing that you should be doing, or not the priority that you should be spending most of your time on.
No, absolutely not. In fact, if someone's goal was, weight loss, fat loss, general improvements of health, I don't think either of us would put HIIT training, anywhere near the top of the priority list.
No, not at all. And I think a lot of it comes down to, because it's sexy in the sense that, you know, we're going to do this. And I think it's sold as like it's a short-term, quick like solution. So that makes it sound, well, this is good. I can get, you know, I can do 3 minutes of work, but I'm getting the benefit as if I was doing 2 hours of work.
Yeah.
But in reality,
the thing about that is
it's bullshit.
Yeah. I mean, that's the whole like Tabata stuff from back in the day as well.
Yeah.
You know, for those who aren't familiar with Tabata, or how it's used these days is 20 seconds on, 10 seconds off. You do 8 efforts, it's 4 minutes total. And you've got, you know, people trying to say that that's the equivalent of or better than doing, you know, 30 plus minutes of exercise. And the reality is it's absolutely not. You know, you're not going to see the same improvements in your cardiovascular fitness. You're not going to see the same output or expenditure from an energy standpoint. So for weight loss, it's not going to be as good. It's one of those things. If it sounds too good to be true, probably is.
Yeah. And a big factor that, you know, a lot of this stuff doesn't, I guess, show you is the training age and status of that individual is going to heavily influence, I guess, the adaptations that they get.
Oh, absolutely. Like, if you're listening to this and you're, you know, wanting to exercise to improve your health and lose weight, and you're coming from a lower level of fitness, right? And, you know, we work with clients like this all the time. Putting somebody into a really high intensity session at the start is a terrible idea. Because guess what? It's not going to be pleasant. It's not going to be fun.
No.
It's going to suck.
Yeah. It's not going to be an enjoyable experience at all.
No. And, you know, if we could get you the same or better results from not doing something that's, you know, incredibly grueling and unpleasant, well, wouldn't you rather do that?
Yeah.
It's just, and I guess if we properly debunk some of these HIIT theories, right? So, I guess the main argument or the main hype behind it is you're going to burn more calories doing HIIT workouts, right? And while there's absolutely evidence that, yeah, okay, if you work at a higher intensity, you will burn more calories, right? The whole EPOC thing, which is the idea that if you do a high intensity workout, your body's just going to be burning calories, you know, for hours and hours afterwards. And you hear some of the claims, it's like, your body's just going to be torching calories 24 hours post-exercise.
It's a calorie burning machine.
It's like, okay, cool. When you actually look at some of these numbers in real time, is it a significant difference? No, it's really not. And then when you throw into the fact that, okay, in order to do a workout that's hard enough to induce that effect, the frequency of your workouts would have to decrease. So you could get the exact same benefits from just doing more frequent, lower intensity workouts. So like, I'd probably just do that. For a start. And the other thing is like calorie burn during exercise, etc. While, yeah, the higher intensity the exercise is, the more calories you're going to burn, of course. We need to go back to that duration intensity relationship, right? So you're not going to be working at a continuous high intensity for an hour. Like, it's not going to happen. And a lot of the time, and, you know, if I throw names out there, like early days of like F45, etc., people being like, you know, I'm burning 600, 800, 1,000 calories in a 45-minute F45 class. Like, you're not. Is the reality there? Like, if you're burning 300-400 calories in an hour of exercise, like, you're working pretty hard. And obviously that's going to be heavily dependent on how big you are overall as well, and how fit you are and all the rest. So, yeah, a lot of those claims, it's where there was a little bit of data and people have put a whole lot of mayo on that small amount of data to make it fit and suit a certain type of narrative, right? And that's when you had that huge boom of, yeah, like interval-based group fitness classes, like, yeah, F45s, what else was there? Orange Theory, the Les Mills stuff, all that stuff.
Yeah, and it's and I think it'd be, and you touched on it, you come back to, is just if it's something that you don't or can't do consistently, and, you know, we talk about the cost of doing it, from a physical standpoint in terms of the body's ability to recover, like if it is something that is true high intensity training, but also the neural fatigue and you just feel overall just generally cooked and exhausted, then again, you're less likely to want to repeat that.
Absolutely. And the one thing I'd throw in here is in no way, shape or form we're trying to say that you shouldn't push yourself when you exercise. You absolutely can, like, because there is something to be said where, you know, you doing a difficult workout in the right way, right? You shouldn't hate every second of it. Not about that, but you push yourself. You know, there's that sense of achievement afterwards, right? And you absolutely, you know, you get positive endorphins. You go, wow, it's a great workout, etc. Absolutely, push for that for sure. It's just that it doesn't have to be 45 seconds on, 15 seconds off, of jumping up and down and doing whatever else you commonly see. Because the other thing to consider here is there are certain movements that are well suited to doing intervals and high intensity training, and there are certain movements that are not well suited to it. And, you know, I think the CrossFit got a really bad name for injuries. And, you know, some of it for good reason. You know, lifting weights under fatigue all the time, well, yeah, there's a high potential for injury. Lifting weights is still incredibly safe comparative to pretty much all other forms of exercise. Yeah. But yeah, and I think F45 and stuff was in a similar category where if you're really exhausted and you're doing things like a kettlebell swing or you're trying to do deadlifts or what have you, and it's always go, and there's no attention spent on how you're doing that movement, well, is there a greater risk? Yeah, there probably is. And then throwing into the equation, which I'm sure we'll touch on, the goal of certain movements is not to get your heart rate up and it's not to burn calories, right? Like, not all exercise is about burning calories. And in fact, I'd argue pretty much no exercise should really be about burning calories, but I accept that if you're trying to lose weight, like, it's hard to get away from that method of thinking. But like, lifting weights is absolutely not about burning calories.
No, that's it. And I think like in terms of movements, you know, your full body movements, naturally, because there is more muscle groups involved, then there is going to be a greater demand in terms of energy expenditure and all that sort of stuff. So that's ways in which you can, choose an exercise in a safe way in terms of risk versus reward. It's not going to bang the joints up. The body's going to feel pretty good without it being something that's like super dynamic and you've got that repetitive nature of it in this interval type of scenario that can, again, you know, like I said, post your session and over time, the body's going to just have those general aches and pains. And again, it's not something that's going to be sustainable.
Absolutely. And here's going to be like the hilarious part where someone will listen to it and go, oh, who's trained with this, and being like, but you guys do interval training. Yeah, of course we do. We love interval training. And we're not in any way trying to contradict ourselves deliberately.
No, that's it.
It's how you do it, and it's the way you do it. So interval training is a fantastic way to train, right? Because a few things can happen. A, it's pretty boring sometimes to just do something continuously for long enough to induce a training effect, especially if it's like an aerobic training thing. Like, you know, it's got to be minimum 20 minutes. Nobody wants to sit on a rowing machine for 20 minutes, right? Like, it's not real fun. Versus you can go on, off. It also allows you to work at a higher intensity than you would be able to if you were just going continuously.
Yep.
Right. And the key word there is higher, not high intensity. Right. So with that, you know, we'll do other things like we'll pair core exercises in there and try and maximize that time. Absolutely. But it's about going, all right, what's the goal, right, of doing this exercise? And for most people, it's improving fitness. Great. What's the best way to do that? It's to work at a moderate intensity that can still feel hard, right? And in a way that you can actually progress that as you go. So with that, it allows you to go, all right, I'm getting my heart rate up. I'm absolutely working. This is absolutely going to improve my fitness, but I'm not feeling like I might need to vomit at any point in time, right? And I'm not doing like high velocity ballistic movements when I'm already fatigued and tired.
Yeah, it's
probably the two things.
Yeah, it's going to be a bit of a recipe for disaster. And I think, the interval stuff as well can be really beneficial in terms of, okay, yes, we're trying to build time and I guess work over time in terms of that capacity, but also allows you having that short little rest. Again, your body's ability to recover between those efforts becomes really important. And that can be a way for clients to measure progress. It's like, oh, I'm actually recovering a lot better between efforts than I previously did. So we're improving capacity and I guess that recoverability, but also the quality of the work. Again, if you're working continuous and depending on what the exercise is, there's going to be a point where it's not going to look that pretty after a certain amount of time. But having that short little rest between your efforts allows you to maintain the quality, so you're getting good quality work in as well.
Absolutely. I think that's really important. And I guess if we're trying to, now we've said everyone like what you shouldn't do. So if your goal is weight loss and general fitness, don't do HIIT workouts. So then it's like, what should you do? Right. Yep. And it's going to be a quick and easy summary here. When it comes to losing weight, the most important thing to realize is it's not just about exercise. Like your diet and overall lifestyle is heavily going to influence this. The old calories in, calories out, which we're not going to go deep down onto that here. Can exercise help? Absolutely, right? And particularly in the sense of how important a consistent exercise routine is in maintaining a healthy eating habits and also maintaining just a healthy lifestyle habits as well. Right? Everybody eats better if they're exercising. Right. And yeah, you do burn calories through exercise, which can make it a lot easier to lose weight for sure. I'm going to say that actually top of the list is not going to be any form of cardio training for most people. I would actually put strength training right up the top.
I would agree.
Particularly if you're coming from a lower base of fitness. And I know it's scary to lift weights, particularly, if you feel like you're out of shape, you're unfit, etc. Strength training is really the safest form of exercise in many ways. It's low load in the most part, like low impact, I should say. So we've done a previous podcast episode on that. So particularly if you're overweight, running, jumping type movements, they're not a great place to start, right? Like things are going to hurt. Whereas lifting weights doesn't have any of that risk. And also when it comes to some of those debunked things like your EPOC, etc., from your overall metabolism, maintaining muscle mass is really important for weight loss, right? And the more muscle mass you have, the more calories your body's naturally just going to burn each day. So outside of that, there's lifestyle stuff that you can definitely attack. But from a pure exercise point of view, I'd put strength training bang up there as number one.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think it's, particularly if you are an older individual. See, we talk about reversing the aging process. Strength training in the research and from an anecdotal point of view has been shown time and time again to be the best intervention to be able to, reverse that in terms of muscle loss, but also everyday function, daily activities of whatever that might be, falls prevention, all that sort of stuff. So if you are prioritizing, 2-3 sessions a week, doing structured strength training, then you're going to do a lot right and you can't really go wrong.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And I guess when it comes to fitness, and I guess weight loss as well, what would you be your second? So we're doing some strength training, 2-3 workouts a week. But what are we going to next?
Well, then you can, again, if you're time limited or anything like that, you can probably start to then work in some form of circuits, which can be a nice way to get a blend of both, where, we call them density circuits. So you might, again, if you are time sensitive, could be literally 15 minutes where you've got 5 exercises, which are a full body sort of, session that you can do. So again, in terms of energy expenditure, you're hitting all those muscle groups and you work through, it might be, you can do time-based density circuits, or it could just be you do 10 reps for each of the exercises and you've got 15 minutes to get as much quality work in as you can. You can rest between the sets, you don't have to rush through. It's just a matter of getting good quality work in. So then you're getting a strength stimulus, but also at the same time, because you are working it in a circuit fashion, your heart rate's going to be up for that 15, 20 minutes, which you're getting the aerobic benefit as well.
Yeah, I love that.
I don't know if that was what you were thinking.
Yeah, no, absolutely. I think that's a great strategy because, for a lot of people, time is one of the bigger barriers. So I think whatever you can do to maximize that time, and I get that's the appeal of the HIIT workouts as well.
Yes,
so I think that's a really
merging the two.
In terms of you're going to get stronger, but you're also going to improve your fitness at the same time.
Yeah.
And I think that's also a great strategy, and we do this all the time, where you might have the first part of your session that's going to be more traditional type strength work, but then the latter part of your session, it can be a kind of blend of the two, or you can finish off with doing some straight cardio. Right? There's absolutely nothing wrong, I should say, with sitting on an exercise bike for 15, 20 minutes with getting your heart rate into an aerobic zone. That has worked since the dawn of time.
Absolutely.
For good reason. Great strategy. Or you can do some of the things Karl was suggesting there. I think for a lot of people, tacking them onto each other is a better starting point than trying to say you should do 3 workouts a week that are strength-based, and then you should do 2 cardio workouts, and then you should eat kale for breakfast, and then you should do this. Like, it becomes too many things. Whereas this, it's like, cool, start off with the strength workouts, get a little bit of a training base under your belt. Over time, cool, let's add a little bit of conditioning, a little bit of cardio. That's really important. And then, hey, let's address lifestyle factors at the same time. And then if the goal is absolutely to increase cardiovascular fitness, great. Then you can prioritize doing some other cardio training as well. But from a weight loss point of view, I think that setup is going to do a couple of things. Firstly, it's going to be much more pleasant than jumping in on HIIT workouts at the start. Secondly, it's going to work at least as quickly, if not quicker, in many ways from a weight loss point of view. And lastly, you're not going to burn out. And that's the most important part. Like, there's no point jumping into, doing all these HIIT workouts all the time if 4 weeks later you're not exercising at all because you completely burnt yourself out.
Yeah. And if we're talking about your window of improvement, you've got a massive window to be able to see progress and have those weekly improvements, even session by session, when it comes to more of your strength and aerobic based work than your typical HIIT base work.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. Got any closing thoughts on HIIT workouts or any of this?
Well, I mean, again, we obviously got our biases a little bit, but it's like finding something that you're going to enjoy. But I think, I think strength, it's funny, like people who have never strength trained before and they get into strength training, it's very much I don't know why I haven't been doing this or why I haven't started this earlier.
Absolutely. And I get it. Like, it's a bit daunting.
For
people for sure. And I think that's what you said there is important as well. As much as we definitely debunked some of the claims behind HIIT workouts and things, like if people enjoy, doing that style of exercise, and they're doing their burpee jumps and setting their little timers on their phone and all the rest of it, and they just enjoy like really pushing themselves to get their heart rate up, I'm absolutely not going to tell them it's wrong.
Yep.
It's not. It's more a case of you don't have to do it that way.
No, that's it.
There are other ways to do it. So if you're somebody who doesn't want to do, burpees and, get to that point where you feel like you might vomit, great. Just know that you don't have to do that.
Yeah.
You've got some, maybe some more sensible options. Let's put it that way.
I love it. Yeah. And that's a really good point because I think you sort of, associate, and there's so much, information out there in terms of this is what you need to do for fat loss and this is the only method you should be doing, and it becomes really overwhelming. And then it's that fear of, if I'm not doing this, then I'm not really getting the results that I should be getting. But again, there is so many ways to, they say so many roads lead to Rome to be able to get that outcome that you're after. So absolutely. I think, listening to experts is always going to be number one. So trying to find a reliable source, but also then doing something you enjoy, and more importantly, like you said, is something that is sustainable and it's going to be sensible based on your current situation. So if your knees don't love life, then probably doing your velocity based jumps and dynamic movements are probably going to be the greatest thing in the long term.
Absolutely. Love it.
Perfect. Baby.